6 o'clock, and the Tuesday, September 26, 2023 Kingsport City Schools Board of Education special call meeting is now called to order. This is the time when members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. It is not the time to speak about personnel issues, as there are more appropriate ways in which these can be addressed. If you're not sure how to do this, please ask one of us after the meeting. In your remarks, you may not refer to students by name without permission from the parent or guardian. If you would like to speak on a topic not included on the agenda, you're asked to submit your request in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 3 business days prior to the scheduled date of the meeting. Now, if you would like to speak about an item included on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand. I request that you state your name and limit your remarks to a maximum of 3 minutes. And seeing none, we will move forward. Our first business item is business item 2.1, Dr. Chris Hampton and Mr. Bart Rowlett. Consideration of approval for an agreement resolving claims related to restoration work at the former Sullivan North High School.
Mr. Rowlett is making his way to the table, and he will present the information for us.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Rowlett.
Good evening. Thank you. Before the board is an action item. Y'all don't usually pass resolutions, which is what I'm used to talking about, but action item to approve a settlement agreement and mutual release of claims between the City of Kingsport and CNC Restoration, Inc. This will also go to the BMA for approval upon recommendation from or approval of this body. So as you all are aware, on or around December the 25th and 26th, there were sprinkler line breaks due to the abnormally cold weather that struck the region. CNC Restoration Incorporated was contacted to provide water remediation services at the Tribe Athletic Complex. Throughout the course of the process, there was a dispute that arose between the parties as to the charges for the services provided. In an effort to amicably resolve the dispute without any further controversy, expense, and delay, the parties participated in a mediation back on September the 8th, which produced a viable resolution which is being presented to this body for approval. This would involve a payment of an additional $850,000 in addition to what has been paid to date to settle all claims between the parties and provide for execution of the release. So happy to answer questions. I know I've spoke to you all one-on-one to try and provide detailed information the best I could, regarding a matter that was contentious, but happy to answer any questions that may have come up since then. Before you also is the actual settlement agreement. A draft was circulated last Friday. There have since been some changes to that I have sent to the board. Provided you all with a tracked changes copy that shows what changed between Friday and today in red, and then also for convenience of reading, there's a clean copy there that's a little easier to just sit down and read. So.
Thank you so much for getting those hard copies to us. I know some folks, being at work and everything, it was difficult to get to the email. Yes. Thank you so much for providing that. Are there any questions for Mr. Rowlett? Okay. Hearing none, then I would like to have a motion for approval to consider the agreement resolving claims related to restoration work at the former Sullivan North High School. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Rowlett, for your work on this. Okay, and with that, we will move to item 2.2, and that is Mr. David Fry and Dr. Andy True. That's the approval to award the bid for the Buck Van Huss Dome renovation project.
Good evening. We're here to make a recommendation to the board to award the bid for the renovation of the Buck Van Huss Dome. It's been It's been a long road to get to this point. We issued bids on August the 5th, 2023. We had a pre-bid conference a couple of weeks later on August the 15th. We opened bids on September the 13th. There were 4 addenda released during the bid process, clarifying items, making minor changes. The bid document asked for a base bid price and had 8 add-on alternates, and also asked for a completion date. The alternates have been reviewed with you before, but we'll go through those again to make sure that everybody has a good understanding of what the alternates were. Alternate 1 was for the replacement of the bleachers in the lower bowl of the dome. Alternate 2 was to, instead of replacing the metal railings that are around the upper concourse, this was to replace a portion of those, the length of the court basically on each side, with glass railings instead of metal railings. There was a 2A and a 2B, and those the differences in those were determined by whether alternate 1 was accepted or not accepted in the replacement of the bleachers, because the seating configuration is a little bit different in whether we have the old bleachers or the new bleachers, so it made a difference in the glass railings. Alternate 3 was the addition of some LED lighting in the ceiling of the dome. These would be we're going to put LEDs in the white lights that are in the dome. The lighting that's currently there it'll look the same. These were for basically accent lighting. They would be colored lights, but this would be the addition of those lights. Alternate 3. Alternate 4 would be to add or replace the 4 movable goals that would basically be on the side courts when you have additional. You have your main court, and then you can have a couple of side courts that go from side to side. But these would be to put those goals in. The base bid includes the replacement of the 2 main goals. Alternate 5 was the renovation of the boys and girls varsity dressing rooms, in addition to the spirit shaker and the cheerleader locker rooms. And one of the addenda also we took out of the base bid and put into this alternate 5 the renovation of the bathrooms that are located near the rear entrance to the dome. There's some restrooms back in that back portion over there. So this alternate included renovation of those restrooms. Alternate 6 was for the expansion of the auxiliary gym. The auxiliary gym now has a basketball court in there. It is not a full-size basketball court. It is not a full-length basketball court. This alternate basically was taking that court, moving it, turning it 90 degrees, adding on to the building, and making it a full-size regulation basketball court. The base bid includes replacing the goals that are in there, includes replacing the floor, includes adding sound dampening in there. Basically, what this alternate did was just change the orientation of the court and make it a full-size court. Alternate 7 was the renovation of the exterior entry plaza at the dome lobby, including repair and renovation of the ramps that access that upper plaza. This is outside work. Alternate 8 is the addition of a parking lot at the rear. There on Stadium Court, there's a parking lot there. and this would be an additional parking lot closer to the school than the parking lot that's currently there, and also includes some ADA parking at the rear entrance to the dome.
How many additional spots in the for the parking area in item 8? How many parking spaces does it add?
Right around 50,
Okay.
50. And really, the only thing I would add, Mr. Fry, is just the amount of work and time that has gone into the group collectively kind of working through these alternates and looking, at not only what we knew needed to be in the base bid, but also what are the things that we felt like were important in addition to that. This is a process, like we've said before, 8+ months, meeting frequently with DB staff, district administrators, city staff, weighing all of these types of options to get us to where we felt when we come and look at these alternates, what we're recommending to you. Certainly, all of these things we felt like were important enough to explore, but the ones we're bringing to you this evening as a recommended are the ones that the collectively decided are the ones that are most.
Did you repeat again that it's 1, 2, 7, and 8?
Of what
1,
we're-
7, and 8.
Yeah, what we're recommending is 1, 7, and 8.
1, 7, and 8.
This question is not relevant to that. It's just a curiosity to me. The huge differentiation in the bids on 2B.
That was a question that we had also. Yes, the J Street bid on, so moving to the next page, moving to the next slide.
And 2A, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you can see on this next slide, the base bid of J Street was $19,925,000. The low bid from Preston Construction on the base bid was $19,015,000, difference of $910,000. As Mr. Dean is pointing out, alternate 2A from Preston Construction was for $195,000. From J.A. Street was $40,000. 2B was 175, and then compared to 16,000, a substantial difference in those two items. All of the rest of the alternates are not very far off. I don't really have a good explanation of why J Street bid so low on those. We think that is a very low bid based upon some information that we got from Holston Glass preliminarily to find out about how much this was going to cost. We're not sure why J Street's bid was so low. I mean, it's almost like they're just giving it to us.
The numbers from Preston, I think, were in the range of where we would have expected them to be, given the information.
Is now the time to continue?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess I'm like you. I would like 1 through 8 to be included. I think, they're all very legitimate options and alternates, et cetera. But number 5, that one, I guess, kind of really disappointed me that the locker rooms aren't going to be renovated and those restrooms coming in the back. I realize that's a fair amount of money, but they're not in the greatest of shape to begin with, and I guess maybe we've become a little spoiled at the TAC. They did such a great job with the locker rooms at the TAC, and just seems like those are some pretty important things because being able to go back and do it, I just wonder if we'll be able to go back and do those again. And with number 8, I'd just like a little more elaboration, I guess, on number 8, adding the 50 spaces back there and what that's going to do with traffic flow. Because I don't know I park back there oftentimes, especially for basketball games, and, the traffic is a nightmare trying to get out of there unless you stay late like we usually do, close the place down. So I guess I'm just wondering, will there be any changes to the roadway, the street coming in there, if we're adding 50 spots? And are we needing 50 spots? And I don't mean that in an ugly way. I'm very sincere. Are we needing additional parking?
And those were questions I think the group really talked a lot about. Number one, how many spaces do we need, knowing we are fairly limited in where we can expand for parking across the campus. Also pointing out that that alternate 8 is not just the parking area. That is also that back entrance, the ADA improvements that we would make to that rear entrance as well, providing some ADA parking in the back as well. So really two pieces to that project, parking and the concerns you raise about the road, and those are things, again, that we those are questions we've asked as well. Is that space sufficient? Is the roadway sufficient for those 50 spaces? But then also, do we need to look at that? One of the things that this allows us to do again, also is lock in a really favorable price for that work. When it comes to the amount of work that would be done there, this type of a number, if we came back and did it later, we would anticipate it. But also, again, it's not just that parking area, it's also the rear entrance, the ADA accessibility side, as knowing the amount of traffic flow, foot traffic that comes into the dome, that allows us to be able to utilize that, especially from an accessibility.
So with being able to have the Civic Auditorium, just went blank there, that will give us, I guess we've been using that in the past, but there wouldn't be, I know sometimes there are days that we had to tell students you can't park there today because of this is going on or that's going on. So hopefully that will alleviate some of the issue of needing additional parking. Do you know how much it is to separate out the additional spaces versus the ADA piece of it? Or can you even do that? You may not even be able to do that, and I totally
From a
understand.
procurement standpoint, you can't. That's a great
Okay,
question, though, Dave.
yeah.
You may want to.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. So first of all, one of the specifications in the bid was that the bid prices are good for 60 days. We opened bids on September the 13th. So the bid prices are good until early November. So we could come back and additional funding, make some changes to some of this stuff. One of the things that we looked at was doing a VE option of breaking up alternate 8 into 2 different pieces. One to only do the ADA parking and cut out the other parking lot. We did get a number back from Preston Construction on that, $100,000 for the ADA parking and $290,000 would be the balance. We couldn't take that as a VE option because it changes the scope of the project. It's as far as the board approving the bid, that we either have to do all or none of any of the alternates. So our recommendation tonight is to go ahead and accept alternate 8 in its entirety. Obviously, a parking lot where this parking lot is located, well, where this parking lot is located is where the construction laydown, not the big laydown site, that's going to be where all the metals laid down, is going to be on a different area, but this is where there will be construction trailers, contractors, some limited contractor parking. So obviously this work on the main parking lot anyway, even the rear entrance, because that's going to be their main entrance coming in to do all the work. This work is not going to be done anytime soon. It'll be this time next year before they even think about starting on a parking lot or that rear entrance. So we still have the option up until that time to ask Preston to give us a change order to take out the main parking lot and leave in the ADA. So this is what we're wanting to do tonight, is to lock in this price, knowing that a year from now, we could come back and do a change order if we felt like at that time that we really decided, no, we're just going to do the ADA parking and forego the other parking lot. So it locks in the price, but still gives us some options.
Okay, so are these is it only the prices that the alternates that we select? So if we came back later and said, nah, we decided now we want to do alternate 3 or whatever, would it have to be rebid again, or are we locking in all these prices on the alternates?
No, we're locking in the prices on, anything that these prices are good for 60 days. So if we come back in 6 months from now and say we want to do alternate 3, you're probably not going to get it for $272,000. We're going to have to come back before November the 12th and accept that alternate. Because these
We're only
prices,
locking in the alternates we accept.
yes,
Correct.
yes.
On the parking, I love the fact that we have a parking problem at Dobyns-Bennett. After going to numerous South Carolina games, we don't have a nightmare of traffic ever leaving a basketball or a football game. We might get stuck for 15 or 20 minutes, but that's still nothing for the support that we pull out. So I also look at, we used to park in that grassy area, and we had lots of people park there. People still fuss that they can't park there. But we have a lot of elderly people that come and support their grandkids or great-grandkids. And even though they're not ADA and they don't have a handicap, it's a long walk from some of those parking areas. So I know it's expensive, but I do think we do need to consider having more parking there we have a lot of people that try to park over across the street, and then they're crossing, and it's dark, and you've got the people violating the law and turning left, and people aren't expecting that. And so right there, we're already asking for a hazard. So if we could move some of those more on site, I think it's safer for our fans and our families. And I do think that we really need to consider, going forward with that route, because we just need the space. And everybody always talks about, gosh, we really missed that view. We missed that we could park there, And I look at the age of people, and I guess I was probably more in tune to it Friday night, looking at who all came out. They were supporting the homecoming kids, the band, the 8th graders. We had a lot of people that struggled to walk, and it is a long haul. And I know some people try to use the golf cart or, but it's not always there. So I'm in favor of that. Initially, I was thinking about the auxiliary gym, and I just kind of want this out there as a dialogue, but I was willing to forego the new bleachers, even though I know that, when you, as Ms. Wood said last time, you redecorate your family room, you want a new couch too. But the auxiliary gym, if it was going to help us have a full-size gym, because the taxpayers are paying for this, so we have a room for the AAU tournaments or some of the Parks and Rec stuff, and you would think that having a full-size gym might be a benefit, but in talking a little bit more and thinking about it, and now that it looks like we're going to have the Civic Auditorium, we'll have a gym right there, a full-size gym with space for people to come. We have the Tribe Athletic Center, and that gym will, I'm assuming, is going to continue to be maintained, and
Absolutely.
despite whatever we end up doing with the rest of that building. But with that being said, the $1.3 million to make a full-size gym there when it's still suitable for practice, to change the facade would be nice, but it is to me, it's a nice to have. It's not a critical thing, since we are trying to watch our dollars. And so as you're going into the gym in the new dome, and the community knows we've spent $22 million to make this safe and maybe beautiful, and because they're not all going to see the safe aspect, they're going to see the cosmetic side of it. So maybe the new couch in the family room would be, good to have the lower bleachers. And I didn't even understand until just now that the configuration would be different, and we put new ones and old ones, which would change the whole railing. I didn't pick that up somehow, but so I'm willing to forego the expansion of the auxiliary gym, since we do have other options, because I don't want Kingsport to ever not be able to host a tournament because we don't have the right number of gyms. But we added one at TAC, we've got the Civic Auditorium, and we've got Dobyns-Bennett, we have a beautiful facility at Sevier now with the new floor, and Robinson. So That's what I had to say on that.
The investments I think we've made at Sevier, for instance, in the gym floor, in the main floor, refinishing that, putting the new floor in the auxiliary gym. You know, when we talk about city usage, typically they would look at Robinson, Sevier, Adams is still used. Obviously with Civic, if you all move that direction at the next meeting. The investment we made at TAC, I think that, you know, that continues to have a broad inventory for city use. So I think about the availability of those.
I have one more question. Is the new entrance to the activities office, that's included in the base bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought so. Just wanted to make sure.
I can remember sitting here when I was here last time with a mask on, opining, literally saying, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had a parking problem again? How quickly we've forgotten, right? That, you know, we're sitting here kicking that parking situation around. What a pleasant problems we have again. All these alternates that were not chosen, probably not a fair question. That's fine. You can't answer it. Did you have a list of prioritization down the line here? Are they numerically prioritized?
Not based on the 1 through 8, they are not, no.
Is there anything that stood out to, as, boy, if we could do this next, or?
Also pointing out, for instance, you know, there are some things that, you know, one thing in particular, like the basketball goals, that's not that we're not going to do it, we're
Yeah.
just going to do it outside the scope of the project. So some of that really just depended upon where bids came in. Looking at those large dollar items versus the ones that weren't, it was a little bit difficult to just rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just
Right.
based on, there's such a vast difference in the cost. But, you know, certainly bleachers were something we wanted to be able to address. Being able to look at that entry, again, when you're walking in that front space of everything that's going on inside, and also just from a safety issue with the ramps. I think those were two that pretty quickly became priority items.
I do have a comment on the LED lights that are being, you know, we're replacing the star lights. Are we replacing those with LED star lights?
Yes.
Good, because I have heard from many photographers in town that those star lights make awesome pictures, and they were really sad to hear that we might be replacing those star lights. So as long, and I know we can do them in LED, and they're a lot cheaper than what we have right now, but I've had many requests from some of our key photographers for the school to keep the star lights.
A key to this project, really since day one, is how can we set ourselves up in future generations, you know, 50-year project here, while retaining the look, the feel that has been so critical to so many people for the last 50 years. And so retaining the starlight, retaining the look of the dome structure itself was a key priority.
If you'll remember the ESG project, the Energy Systems Group project that we did, which we replaced all the lights in all of the schools with LEDs. We're getting ready to go into the dome and replace the lights in the stars with LEDs. And that's about the time that we did the testing. And so at that point, we pulled back on that, did a $100,000 change order to take those lights out, knowing that when we came back to do this project, that we would be putting white LEDs back in the stars with new globes, but
The lens.
new lens on them. So, you know, any of the yellowness of the old lenses, those will be new lenses. Could look significantly brighter in there.
Mr. Dean, to follow up, if we were looking at first in, last out, last in, first out, probably the last thing we removed would have been the locker rooms. And that was, that would be the next in for me, just because of the benefit to students, the direct benefit to student for years. Boys basketball, girls basketball, volleyball, dance and cheer, in addition to the bathrooms. That would have been the next in, because likely that which would have most provided the most return on investment.
Maybe we could just do some of our locker rooms and make the visitors' locker rooms much worse in the process. I've experienced that many a time as a young man. So as far as the 2A and 2B, they weren't considered. You didn't really have an answer for the differentiations, essentially, did you? It's just be up
Not
to
definitively.
J
no.
Street and the press and
Not
construction to
definitively,
tell us, yeah.
Could
Thank
we
you.
We
have-
have some, speculation.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing definitive.
Loss leader kind of mentality, I don't know. It's just curious to me.
Could we have J Street do the railings? I mean, it doesn't have to be, it's not part of the construction per se, but they can come in after the fact. If they can do it for $300,000 cheaper, it might be worth a question.
Afraid that those prices are contingent
Yes.
Any other question? If there's not any other questions, I'll proceed on. So we did come back to we went back to the architect, said, okay, we got the base bid from Preston Construction, go back to them and see if there's anything in the specifications that we could do some minor changes without changing the scope, that we could reduce the cost on it. To see if you can do any value engineering. And they came back with several items, and we didn't accept them all. Example, putting duct socks, which is a flexible tube for duct work going around the perimeter of the gym instead of the metal duct work. Didn't have the life, expect to damage, a little bit noisier. We just felt like that. And there wasn't, I said it wasn't a significant change. Remember, we're talking about a $20 million project. There was like a $67,000 savings on it, and we just felt like that's if it had been $250,000, we might have considered it. But for that amount of money and the life and everything, so that's an example of a VE item that we didn't accept. So we did accept some items here. I've got some items. Total of $264,915. So we did reduce the contract price by a little over $250,000. For example, changing the type of ceiling paint in the lobby. We're not changing the look. We're not changing. It's still going to be painted, but it's a different type of paint that only requires one coat of paint instead of two coats of paint. So we say, I was thinking about this earlier. The paint might be a little bit more expensive, but we use less of it. And we use a lot less labor. And so a savings of $50,000. There's some column covers in the lobby that are not in bad shape, and we can clean them up, a savings of $25,000 if we don't replace those. We went back to the flooring subcontractor and said, can you do any better on your price? And he came back to us and said, I can reduce my price $31,775. That's not a reduction, that's not a change in the type of floor or anything, that's just, he said, I can give you a little bit better price. Changing the aluminum storefront, some of the column work in the front lobbies where all the glass doors are. A little bit of change in the type of material on that. Savings a little over $25,000. There was some ceiling work in the lobby that we're changing. Changing the type of ceiling in there. It's not the whole lobby, there is a small portion of that we're changing out, savings of $42,400. Taking the sound panels out of the wrestling room, savings of $31,000. Changing in some of the exterior ductwork. This is where the ductwork comes from the units. The 10 new HVAC units will be sitting on the flat section of the roof on the outside of the dome. If you're familiar now, there are 26 HVAC units in the dome. You'll see the A, B, C, D. Those are all HVAC units. Those are going away. They're being replaced by 10 units that will be replaced to be sit outside on the flat roof of the dome. We'll gain a little bit of seating back where those units are. but changing the ductwork a little bit from getting from those units into the dome, savings of $37,900. And we were going to do some modifications to the press box, and we decided, let's give us a number for not doing that, and the savings of $21,000. So the press box that's up there now is going to look like it does now. So those 8 items total $264,915. So a summary of the total cost of the project as it stands now. So a few items listed here. If you go back to the beginning where we did the testing and so forth, a little over $53,000 that we paid for all of that, lifts and the testing and that sort of stuff. The shoring, the scaffolding that is currently in the dome, the cost to put it up, take it down, which we haven't done yet, and the rental of that material every month is $355,000, and that's an estimate because it's not coming down tomorrow. It's going to still be up for at least 6 months. This number here will take us out through about March of next year.
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
about that? If we know that the dome is not in any danger of falling, why do we need that right now?
Well, if you'll recall, back about a month ago, we had a significant wind event in Kingsport. That's the type of thing that could cause some structural for something to fail.
I thought that it had to be 3 events for it to catastrophically fail. I didn't know that it was a single event.
Any one of those
could.
three. The weight of snow on top of it, a significant wind event, and a seismic event.
Yeah.
Any one of those three could cause a failure. Construction management, we're working with the city of Kingsport, with their engineering department, to provide some services to us, some project oversight. In past projects, we've had an owner's rep that we've hired, but this kind of serves in that capacity. We paid the city of Kingsport $100,000 on the Science and Technology building for oversight on that project. Some testing, there's testing of materials, concrete, steel, these types of things. Fees that we have to pay to the state of Tennessee for fire inspections, and this is a bid project, so I've put $100,000 in there for these types of things. The construction contract with Preston Construction, including alternates 1, 7, and 8, and deducting the VE items, totals $20,405,085. And on this project, we normally, on some of our projects, well, on most all of our projects, we do a 6% contingency. This is a really large project, and we felt like if we went down to 4% contingency, which is still $816,200, that was sufficient for this project. So all of these items together total $23,215,000.
Is the architect going to have somebody on site? Does the architect have somebody on site during the construction?
They will have somebody on site during the construction. They will not be on site every day, but they will have a presence there.
So who's actually calling the shots? Because we're paying for construction management and then architecture, and then we have a general contractor. Who's actually calling the shots on site?
I would say that's a collaborative effort between everyone you just mentioned.
Do we need all 3 of those people on site at all the same time? Like redundancy to pay for the city to do construction management when we have 2 other people, the architect and the general contractor, doing that. And we have permitting in here as well, which is going to be, so you have construction management with city, permit, which is city, architecture, and the GE. So you have 4 people that are going to be backstopping each other. Do we really need all 4?
We, based on experience with the Science and Technology building, there will be a superintendent from the contractor who is there every day, who is correcting the subs and that sort of stuff every day. The architect will be there, not daily, but periodically, making sure that answering questions, clarifying questions, making sure that the plans are being followed. Yes, there'll be inspections from building inspectors, electrical inspectors, fire inspectors, and we'll also have, not every day, but the oversight from the city of Kingsport, which I will say was valuable on the Science and Technology building, in that person was sort of a liaison between some of these other people. That they have experience dealing with other city departments, with dealing with the inspectors. So yes, I think that all these things are needed.
It just seems like we got a lot of cooks in the kitchen. The architect, I would imagine, is pretty adept at dealing with city municipalities, and I'd say permits as well. They're going to do their, as well as the general contractor. So the GC is well equipped with dealing with all of that. I just don't see the need in having the city do the construction management. I just think that's an unnecessary fee, and it's really just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's all within the same tax dollars, which doesn't make any sense to me.
And as it's been explained to me, that's a standard process for city projects. In fact, this is a rate for us, significantly so, just for them to manage the nuances to protect the investment of the city.
Who is going to give us periodic updates on progress made and issues faced, and a routine voice to the board out of those people?
On our side of the equation, we will meet regularly. Science and Tech building, we met every 2 weeks, so I would assume we will do a collective meeting between the folks, like Mr. Gold mentioned, the general contractor, the architect will be on site, and then what our job will be is then to come back and provide you all updates. I would assume it would be myself and/or at whatever schedule you all would prefer, but we will be meeting to get those kind of that information flow on a bi-weekly basis on our side.
Now, and what's kind of stuck with me, I've had you, as you probably picked up, I've asked you the question a couple times. You're not a construction person. That's not your that's not your expertise, and neither are we. I guess not having access to the person that's ultimately accountable, other than through 3 or 4 layers of bureaucracy, kind of bothers me.
Yep.
With spending $23 million. I'm not taking it at you all. I'm just kind of thinking out loud on it. Because my personal experiences, we had historically somebody there who would come and report, and we got this done, and we're on this timeline. We're having problems with, that kind of stuff. And I don't know that it's fair to ask you all to shoulder that. Again, it's a $23 million project. It's not putting a new roof on Jackson Elementary, so I don't know what the answer is, but if you all are totally comfortable with it, then, and I'm sure I'm thinking out loud, I'm sure you could probably ask the contractor or whoever to come if need be, but I would prefer it be a routine process rather than an exceptional process.
Sure, and that's why I say, when you think about, and Thompson and Litton being here tonight, they are the ones that, from the architecture standpoint, that are working to ensure that what was designed is constructed. Then with us being involved in that project, and I would say, if you're looking for a person or who will be the one to deliver that, honestly, I would say it would be myself, that I would bring that information back to you all on whatever schedule you all would prefer. Being involved in that, and ultimately, as my role with the district, then my responsibility would be to make sure that you're getting the information you need on updates and where our progress lies. I see that.
Am I the only one that's concerned about this?
No, I'm thinking, I agree with you, and it would be nice because, I have a question, and I ask you because you've gotten your information from Thomas Layton, and all of a sudden, you don't know the answer. So now you have to go back and you have to get an answer, and then now we've waited, and of course, you know, it depends on how it's dispersed, whether it's through an email, and then we have to be careful on questions, and we end up with our hands tied, and we end up with basically at least a 2-week delay because of how we meet if we have a question. So it would be nice, they don't have to come every meeting, but maybe, you know, this is a long-term project, but maybe even, you know, every other month or once a quarter, we could get somebody from the architect firm to come and they be the one delivering, so we can ask those questions and alleviate some of the what's it called, hamster spinning wheels. My brain's not working 100%, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
And also understanding that there may be things that come up along the way that can't wait until that type of report. We are very happy to be able to communicate to you that information so that and to turn that around. You know, Mr. Alderson and I speak, if not, daily is an understatement, the communication that we have. So to be able to have that type of a connection on, you know, from where we sit, to be able to get that information to you, we're very happy to provide that for you. Certainly a significant investment, and we want you all, as representatives of the public, to be able to have the information you need and you want.
And maybe a solution is, I mean, obviously, I think they'd be willing to come periodically, but maybe a solution is when you get an update before we have our business meeting or work meeting, you kind of give us an update beforehand.
Happy to do
And
that.
then we can look at our questions, and so we can either ask them back to you before our meeting, or we can ask them at the meeting, and that might save some of the leg in answers. But, you know, to just present it to us here, and then we have questions you have to run back, it just doesn't seem like a very efficient process.
We can certainly put structures in place to provide you regular updates outside of meetings, whether it's communications or email questions or just general status updates. One of the things that we started doing, talking about status updates, we built a web page to be able to provide updates to the general public on where things sit. So that is a kind of a condition we're wanting to be able to put out to the public, so that way, not just this project, but all of our capital projects, the public has photos, updates, information about how their tax dollars are being spent. So that is certainly on our mindset and a philosophy that we're very much on board with.
We're here with the Science and Tech Building, right? How were the updates at that time? I mean, comparable
Architect.
project.
Architect was here, and the general contractor was the ones that we usually got most of the answers from, and you guys were here as well. Never saw the city.
But the frequency.
Had, I want to say, it was a monthly, every other month update. It was around the same amount of money that we spent.
Yeah, it was probably
Yeah,
once a quarter.
yeah.
I came in at the tail end of that, and we were getting it every other month.
I'll tell you, one thing that's got me sore about this, or hypersensitive to it, is that what we just did in the earlier called meeting. We had to spend an additional $800,000 out of nowhere. I mean, in these kind of projects, I mean, that could easily happen, I would think, if we're not keeping our fingers on the pulse. I'm not a contract. I just want to be clear from my 20% of the board, to let you know you're taking on an awesome responsibility with this, and just to be aware of it. As a taxpayer, you know, I take it very seriously, as well as a board member, so.
So could we propose that there's a minimum of a quarterly report from one of the, and not, again, not sliding any information that you would be giving us. We welcome it. Dr. Hampton gives us a weekly board update. You could tag that on to his update to us, et cetera, but I think it might give all of us a little comfort if we maybe had a quarterly update from, you know, somebody that's an architect or the contractor, et cetera, et cetera. If that would be an option, I think that would be great. Okay.
As memory serves, since you asked that question, I started thinking back through it. You guys did a great job last time when we went through this, because we ran into some, to your point, we ran into some soil issues, and they kept digging and digging, and we kept praying that it was going to resolve itself because it could end up being a money pit, and it ended up being okay. They had to send it off and get it studied, and so we're not, yeah, sure. We're not digging though.
No.
Right, so we don't have soil issues here. That's the,
No,
yeah,
no expansive shell in this project.
exactly. But you did a great job on keeping us updated throughout that entire thing. And there was a little bit of cost savings, I think, that the architect found in there, and the general contractor got done a little earlier and found some cost savings as well. And I appreciated that. But it was always the architect, the general contractor, and the two of you that were here giving us those updates. So if we're paying the city, I'd appreciate it if a city rep would show up too.
In having been a part of that project, at each meeting, various members from the city would engage in those meetings, and I think they would have no problem with engaging back with the board at all. And in fact, they really helped that process to be as seamless as it was, because they knew the city procedures, the contacts, the parties at play, and they were interchangeable and involved throughout the entirety of the process.
I'll just have one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this. I just hate this for the kids. Not that they're not going to have a wonderful gym, but do you think there's any chance that Preston might come back with a lower amount to do those locker rooms and bathrooms? Is it worth asking the question?
We can talk with them.
I mean, the worst they could say
I
is no.
suspect if there's any reduction there, I would not expect it to be looking to get a $315,000 number lowered to $215,000. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, did it go to 300,000? I don't know.
Five.
I mean, a lot of this is just the cost of inflation. I mean, try to build anything brand new right now. You're looking at $250 to $300 per square foot. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking,
A lot, this market
when they
that
do
we're-
get, eventually, if they were renovated, it's going to cost a lot more just because we're not doing it while we're doing everything else. And, it's kind of like the carpet. Will it ever really happen?
Did they throw in Davis-Bacon wages on this so we don't get surprised by that again?
There's no ESSER money in
ESSER
this.
money.
Okay, I don't know when the government tells us we got to spend.
No, this is
Fair
question.
This is all city money.
I just want to say thanks. I know really, I can't imagine really being a part of this insurmountable project, the time and the effort that you all have put into this, and everybody that you've worked with and will continue to work with, and to Mr. Dean's advocacy from the taxpayers. I've already gotten a lot of questions about it, a lot of things you can't answer because we're now at the point to where we have a dollar amount, but as the taxpayers see the price tag attached with this project, I can confidently tell them that that we have probably the best people working on it. So thank you all for that. And it's when they see the cost of something like this coupled with the main goal of our system, which is to prepare our kids for the world and their education, I think they're getting the best. So it's like I said, I can confidently look at them and tell them that that's what we're giving them.
So, a couple more slides to tell you how we're going to pay for it. So, as you know, that the city just recently sold $21 million worth of bonds to fund this project. And we've just pointed out that there's a $23,215,000 price tag from beginning to end. So, on our books right now, we have a project that's been on our books for a couple of years for Dobyns-Bennett renovations. City a couple of years ago sold $6 million worth of bonds. before we even knew that we were going to do any. I mean, there were some dome renovations included, the HVAC that we're doing here, boilers that we're replacing here, were included in a overall facility plan for Dobyns-Bennett. And $6 million was the first of a 2 or 3 $6 million that we were going to receive. So that $6 million with some other older bond money has been sitting in a generic Dobyns-Bennett renovation project for a couple of years now. The total amount of money in that project is $7,730,290. We've spent some money out of that project. There were some preliminary facility study money, expenses that we incurred, $35,000. The engineering fees that we paid to replace the cooling towers at Dobyns-Bennett that were the main project was paid with ESSER money, but the engineering fees of $30,000 came out of this project. The Dobyns-Bennett pool renovation project, $1,894,789 has come out of this project. So that's a total of $1,959,789 that has been spent out of this $7.7 million, leaving us a balance in this project today of $5,770,501. We're recommending that we transfer $2,215,000 of these monies, which will leave about $3.5 million in that generic DB renovation project for future expenses, floor covering replacement, other things that need to be done at Dobyns-Bennett. We'll leave about $3.5 million remaining in that project. So the $21 million plus the $2,215,000 will give us $23,215,000 in this project, which will pay for what we're recommending. And so what we're recommending is that the board accept the low bid from Preston Construction of $19,015,000 and alternates 1, 7, and 8 for an additional amount of $1,655,000. In addition, accept the listing of value engineering items that total $264,915,000. Total contract amount with Preston Construction will be $20,405,085, and in addition to that, approve a 4% contingency of $816,200.
Are there any other questions or discussions?
I'll ask a question for you. So why are we not accessing some of that money to do like these things, these alternates that are directly affecting students, like the $300,000 locker room renovations?
Out of the $3.5 million? Yeah,
Or
$3.5 that's left.
Whatever's.
Yes.
I believe all that money's spoken for, is it not?
No.
Okay, so that's
That
free.
that $3.5 million that's left in that project is available money to.
I thought you guys showed us a spreadsheet years ago that had money allocated towards all these
No,
different
we're not
projects.
saying that there aren't projects that we can spend that money on. It's just that we haven't obligated any of that money to be spent on anything. I mean, there is floor covering at Dobyns-Bennett that needs to be replaced.
That, I guess, when I think about the floor covering, that has to be, in my brain, that needs to be a priority out of that $3.5 million that's sitting there. I don't know how much money that is. Yes, I would love to take $315,000 out of it and put it toward those locker rooms and bathrooms. However, I think the flooring affects all the students, and it's long overdue. I don't know how many years, but a lot.
Yeah.
But a lot of years. It's kind of like that carpet I'm having replaced tomorrow. It's way overdue. So, I hate to take money away from the floor coverings for this. I don't know if we can do both. If we can do both, that'd be great.
The
But
estimate that we had to replace the floor coverings probably 5 or 6 years ago
6 years
was
ago.
probably about $600,000 or $700,000. Now, I would say
Double
that
it.
we can. 2.1 now. There you go. So, board wanted to accept.
Can Can we at
additional
least ask
alternate?
them to see what they could do on sharpening their pencil for those locker rooms? I know it may only be a 10% reduction or 20%. We have 60 days, you told us, so, if we can get a sharper number on that, and then our next meeting, October 9th or whatever, 10th, that was close, then, we can, if we have something, maybe we can say, okay, yeah, let's continue with that. Because I think Ms. Woods is right, that they're suitable locker rooms. Obviously, they're not nearly as nice as what they're used to now at the TAC. They're still functional. They're still a lot nicer than what a lot of the schools in our area have. So it's not like we're having our kids live in squalor. That'd be a different story, but they are actually suitable locker rooms. They're just not as nice as what we're used to. But as long as we're spending the money to make the whole dome aesthetically appealing and trying to get us into the next, couple generations of kids, it might be worth a gander to see, can they reduce it at all? They might laugh at us. They might go, no, actually, that was a bargain. Your price is now $350. But we just don't know. But I think it's at least worth, a dialogue, since we have some money that is there. Obviously, we have a whole, pages full of projects that need to be done, but it could be, we already spent a lot of money, so, but we're not talking about cup holders, we already nixed that, so.
Mr. Fry, based on the timeline, if we came back October the 10th, would the city have time to make a decision for their approval prior to the expiration of the 60 days?
Yes. What we're doing right now in the budget amendment, which is the next item on the agenda, is we're putting the $2,215,000 in the project. We would have to come back and do another budget amendment. But I think that we could work it out to where we could get approval. We would have to get BMA approval before November the 12th, before the 60 days ran out. But I think that we could come back, we need to fairly soon, but I think we could come back and accept an alternate.
I'll just put a small plug into the locker room issue. It's I believe that it would be an opportunity for the kids, those that would utilize those facilities, to see a direct investment into what they do. Walking in and out of a locker room, what's currently there and what they have been walking out of during basketball season at the TAC is it's significant. But I just think it would be a way they would see that investment every time they walk in and out.
We just want to make sure we're not taking away the funds from, like, the basketball goals, which are obviously, critical, and some of the other things that we're putting on a back.
Gonna need those.
You think?
Well, there's two included.
But, there's some couple things that, we think we can do on our own. We just want to make sure that we're not going to take away those funds. So I think we need to have a big picture look, but if we ask them to see if they can sharpen their pencil, and then, we have another dialogue in 2 weeks.
And I would like to hear input from Dr. Tate and from Dr. Hampton. They are there, Dr. Tate now all the time, but you've been there for over 12 years, and just is that met with approval from you all as well? You know best how that $3.5 million could be spent.
I'm not sure if labor is the right word, but we've labored over some of these decisions over the last couple of weeks since the opening of the bid, and we labored with Thompson and Litton on many occasions, trying to value engineer, get the prices down. We've repeatedly come back to this item. We were able to get a debrief earlier in the week about the details, the minute details of the project. And it's something that all of us wanted to do. Trying to be fiscally responsible to the budget was always in the back of our minds, and I think I articulated that in the board update. If just from an opinion and looking at the bottom line on that, the remaining funds, the $3.5 million, I don't think this project would long-term prohibit us from the carpet. In fact, I'd like for us to move into the first phase of that summer of '25 after the dome opens up, just to go ahead and say we're moving forward with it. The floor covering, yes. I mean, there's some other things that need to be done at the high school. You all have access to a copy of our 10-year plan. Really, the first 5 years is what I would encourage you to look at. Anything beyond that really is a hope and a dream and a wish. But there are more items than that money could ever cover in queue at Dobyns-Bennett. The benefit I will say to this project, and if Dr. Tate wants to speak, he certainly may, is that now versus later is probably a cost savings and limits the disruption. I mean, that was one of the things we pointed out with doing the ADA work and doing the plaza ramp work, is that doing that in the future would essentially result in closing that area of the school again. And so we certainly want to avoid that. I think I spoke for Dr. Tate.
Then I think I would ask that we go back, ask the question to see if there can be a reduction, and then we could make a decision at the next meeting, in our October meeting, of whether we want to include that as an additional alternate.
So you need a motion to table then?
Okay. Well,
No, it's not. Let's
No.
don't play with it.
Okay.
okay, all right. So are there any other questions related to the recommendation that Mr. Fry has asked for? I'm going to read that whole big, long thing, just for the record.
Mr.
We'll-
Alderson is with us, and he may have a thought on that.
Yeah, we'll be happy to talk to Preston again and see what we can do. We can't guarantee anything with the way the bid market is right now, but we will attempt to VE similar to what we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. And then we'll get back to Ann.
Perfect. And I will say, gosh, Preston Construction, they knocked it out of the park with the TAC. I mean, I don't think anyone really thought in 93 days,
It was
91
close,
days, that we could have that facility renovated. I mean, they killed it and did an amazing job. Everything that was asked, I'm so excited that they're going to be working with us again, because they really did a fantastic job. So thank them again for what they've already done, and looking forward to working with them again in the future.
There's a contractor that's doing the pool renovations also, and we've had.
And based on those pictures,
we've
it looks
had a good
fantastic.
experience with them. So that's one reason we feel comfortable in recommending Preston Construction, and these past two projects have been experience with that company.
Wonderful. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, then the recommended action is to accept the low bid from Preston Construction of $19 million, correction, 15,000, I don't say numbers like that very often, and alternates 1, 7, and 8 for an additional amount of $1,655,000. In addition, accept the listing of value engineering items that total $264,915. The total contract amount with Preston Construction will be $20,405,085. In addition, there would be an approval of a 4% contingency of $816,200. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
To approve, second, something.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded by Mr. Golden and Ms. Byers. All in favor? Whoa.
Discussion.
Just go, okay.
So I'm not quite sure what we're doing here relative to asking somebody to consider. So we're allocating the money, but we're not accepting the bid yet.
We are
We're
accepting the bid.
everything but the locker room thing. They're going to come,
This motion is to accept the bid.
yeah.
So what will motivate the company to come back after they've already got the business to?
Another $300,000 for them.
See my point?
Yeah, that's why I asked if you wanted to table it. That's why I thought we were going to table it and then send it to
I
back.
think, but this piece, I think there is some urgency to get it to the BMA for approval. Is that correct, Mr. Fry?
The longer we wait to approve the bid, longer we wait to approve the bid, and not give the contractor a notice to proceed, is the longer the project's going to take.
We're
So-
talking 2 weeks. It's not like 2 months, so.
Right now, the completion date is March 1st, 2015, or 2025. So yes, I mean, if you.
It's 18 months
if-
away.
Could, not take any action.
I'd say if I was
But-
bidding on
but-
this.
But I will also tell you too, that Preston Construction has the low bid. And we are not going to recommend anybody else. I mean, so that is what the recommendation is. I mean, so we're not going to, I'm not going to come back and recommend that we reject bids and rebid it. So.
So there's not a negative aspect of going ahead and approving
don't think
this
so.
and then coming back if we want to add the locker rooms and bathrooms?
I don't think so. I mean, their price is locked in at $315,000. It can't go up. We can ask them to come down.
It could only go
See if there's
down.
any other value
Okay.
engineering that we can come up with.
Discussion? Motion, second. Okay. Okay, so are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion approves. Passes.
We'll ask the questions and come back with a recommendation or not.
And I will say, just on behalf of Mr. Alderson and Thompson Litton, the work they have done to pursue these kinds of questions, how can we sharpen the pencil, has been constant and successful, and so they have been, and with Preston as well, looking at things. So I know we'll continue that. Helping us answer these kind of questions on how we can sharpen the pencil and make improvements.
And they may have a recommendation on how to cosmetically enhance it without spending $300,000 as well, doing that value engineering. So interested to see what their thoughts are on that, to see what we can do, even if it's not brand new, but maybe cosmetic improvements.
Thank you all. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you
There we go.
a lot over the next 18 months. Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on then to our next item, which is 2.3, the budget amendment number 3. Mr. Fry.
Yes, so let's we've told you where the money's at for the couple of other items that the first two items that you've acted on, so let's formally put the money in place. Budget amendment number 3. First item is concerning the Sullivan North renovation project. So we have received $1,658,939 of insurance funds for the work for CNC Construction. There has been a payment received from the insurance company that has not previously been appropriated of $463,876. In addition to that, there has been interest earnings that have been earned as money has been invested that has accrued to this account, and those monies have not been appropriated. That is $97,795. So that's a total of $561,672, which will, when that money's appropriated, that will give sufficient funds in the Sullivan North renovation project to make the payment to CNC Construction of $850,000 and still leave a balance in that project of $166,991. So recommending that the board in this budget amendment, increase our estimated revenues for insurance proceeds by $463,877, for interest earnings by $97,795, and increase the appropriations by a total of $561,672.
Hey, who's paying this 5% interest? Because I want to invest in them.
Yeah. It's been over
Well,
several
this is
years.
money that's been accumulated for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a really good return right now.
Right. So if there's any questions on that particular item? So the next item we've already talked about, just in the previous action, of the $7.7 million roughly that's in the Dobyns-Bennett renovation project, moving $2,215,000 of those funds over to the dome renovation project, and that will leave a balance of about $3.5 million in the Dobyns-Bennett renovation project. So recommend that the board approve Budget Amendment 3, and we'll forward this on to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Are there any questions?
Thank you for bringing these in such a tidy package here. I sure hope that Preston, and it sounds like they are going to be a lot better corporate partners than CNC has been in this other situation.
Had nothing but good relationships with Preston Construction.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Fry, not very good with money, that's why I'm married to an accountant. I'm just curious, so what is the benefit of just moving 2.2 million from that fund to the project and not moving all of it, just to keep some, just in case?
Well,
Instead of
we
moving it
know right
all.
now that the approved dome project is $23,215,000. And that's the amount of money that we wanted to put in that project. We wanted to leave the other $3.5 million sitting in the generic Dobyns-Bennett renovation project for future projects such as the floor covering replacements or some other things. Now, I will tell you that if we decide to come back and do alternate number 5, I will bring another budget amendment back to you to move another $315,000 or
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so the recommended action then would be to approve Budget Amendment Number 3 as stated. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very, very much.
thank you.
And with that, we will adjourn this part of our meeting, of the special called meeting. We can take about a 5-minute break.